fishing rod in the quiet field. And what I caught wouldn't be big enough for you and lie and say I did great.
Hey guys, it's Ciara and welcome to another vlog. It's currently Saturday morning and I am so happy to say that this weekend I have absolutely zero plans. I have nothing on the agenda and I am so happy about it. I feel like I've had a lot of weekends lately where I've been really busy and just absolutely maximised all of the things that I've been doing on the weekend, meeting up with lots of people and just doing lots and lots of stuff, which has been really lovely, but I just feel like I'm in need of a reset weekend and just like the chance to spend some time by myself. I'm sure many of you will be able to relate to this, but I feel like people often talk about being either introverted or extroverted, whereas I feel like I'm definitely more of like an ambivert, where sometimes I really love going out and spending lots of time with people and socialising loads, but then other times I just feel like I need to take a step back and just be by myself to recharge the batteries and all of that kind of stuff. So I've had a lot of the extroverted side of my personality over the last few weeks, just like going out and doing lots of things, and I feel like this is going to be an introvert weekend. So like I said, it's Saturday morning, I've already been out and gone to the gym, and then Jay and I managed to fit in a quick coffee before he had to be at work this morning, which was really lovely. And now I'm at home, I have nothing else on the agenda, and I'm planning to fill my day with lots of reading, lots and lots of tea, and I'm sure a few episodes of Grey's Anatomy snuck in there as well. The reason I'm also excited to have such an introverted and chilled out weekend at home, well, there's two other reasons. The first is that the weather has really come through because it is so grey and so rainy, which just feels absolutely perfect for a weekend where I've already planned to just chill out and stay at home for most of the weekend. And then secondly, I am very behind on my Goodreads goal for this year. I decided to up my goal, so the last 2 years I've set myself a 75 books for the year goal, which I have met. I think last year I met the goal early in December and then managed to read a few extra over 75. So this year I thought, why not push it and try and go for 85? But I am behind. I'm currently 6 books behind my goal. So I thought that this weekend, as well as just chilling out and spending some time at home, I could also try and push myself to use that time to try and catch up on my Goodreads goal and just read as many books as possible. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to read all 6 books this weekend, but I would like to read a few just to try and catch up with my goal and hopefully give myself a good chance of not falling too far behind. Because at the moment I feel like 6 books, you know, it's a few books, but I feel like it's also a small enough amount that I might actually be able to turn it around and come back from this and actually hit my goal by the end of the year. So with that in mind, the first book that I'm going to be starting with I'm so excited about, and that book is The Burning Girls by C.J. Tudor. This one was bought for me for my birthday by my friend Mary, and I was so excited about it because I've read 2 of C.J. Tudor's other books, The Chalk Man and The Taking of Annie Thorne, and I loved them both. C.J. Tudor is a writer who I think is very similar to Stephen King, and Stephen King often has written notes on the back of these books, like on this one for example, it says, "If you like my stuff, you'll like this," by Stephen King, and I just feel like it definitely has a similarity to Stephen King in the way that it blends the like tangible and recognisable modern day world with elements of the paranormal in a way that is just very chilling, because it seems as though the paranormal is invading reality and it's not a completely fantastical world, it's very recognisable and very realistic, so then those elements of the paranormal just feel all the more spooky and unnerving. So I feel like C.J. Tudor and Stephen King both do that sort of playing around with the paranormal so well, and that's something that I really enjoy. But what I especially like about C.J. Tudor's books is the way that she plays around with timelines. So the 2 other books of hers that I've read have been set where there has been 2 distinct timelines that are connected by some kind of paranormal event, and usually there's a character that like sort of arcs into both and kind of has lived through the first paranormal event and then is still around and seeing the second thing happen again and is kind of trying to get to the bottom of what is causing this phenomena. So it's really interesting how she uses timelines, and I am such a sucker for either multiple perspectives or multiple timelines. I just love how that helps to round out a narrative and just adds in so many extra layers. But this one sounds even more interesting. So like I said, the other books of hers that I've read have had 2 timelines, but this one sounds like it's going across many, because the inside of this cover says, 500 years ago, 8 martyrs were burnt to death. 30 years ago, 2 teenagers vanished without a trace. 2 months ago, the vicar committed suicide. Welcome to Chapelcroft. So it's set in a small town, as all of C.J. Tudor's books are, and it sounds as though we're not only going to get 2 timelines, but there's obviously something dark happening in this village, Chapelcroft, which has sort of like gone across many generations and hundreds of years, and is just kind of like haunting and making this town a really dark place. So I'm super excited to try this one out. It's going to be a really great read. I'm almost certain of that because I just love C.J. Tudor's writing, and it's also the perfect sort of gloomy, rainy day to be reading a dark thriller. So this book is on the agenda. I'm going to try and get started with this one very shortly and just see where the rest of the day takes me.
And all of these moments there's something that feels so good. And all that I'm left with to go through. I lose my head when you call me up and ask if I'm...
It is literally bouncing down outside. It's so crazy. I love it when it rains like this.
I'm doing okay. Was it easier when I was young? Was it all the trick you played on me? Nowadays we're all so spread.
Whoa. Okay, this book is just so full of so many mysteries. I've just been reading basically all morning since I last spoke to you, and I'm now on page 213, so I'm flying through this book. It's totally unputdownable because, like I said, there are just so many mysteries. I feel like C.J. Tudor has stepped it up for this one. Like, she's taken all of the things that make her other books so great and then added more in, but I'd say that this one definitely has a slightly different vibe to her other books because, as I mentioned earlier, there's usually a small town setting, which is true in this book, and there's usually a character who has lived in this small town from many years ago and so has witnessed both instances of this paranormal activity that's going on in the location. Whereas in this book, we have a main character who's called Jack Brooks, and Jack is a reverend or a vicar, and basically her and her daughter are moved from their previous posting in like an inner city church in Nottingham to this small town, like village setting that they've never been to before. And so Jack is thrown into this setting, and we know that there's some kind of mystery and darkness around her past, but she does not have any previous connection to this particular town. So it's kind of interesting, and I feel like as a reader you connect more to the main character in this book because you are uncovering the mystery with them, and you are just as blind as they are and just as like confused about what's going on. But just to give a brief overview of some of the mysteries that we've got, we have, of course, Jack's past. It seems like she left her previous church on some bad terms, and there are little hints here and there, but we don't really know exactly what happened. We then also have the mystery of the martyrs that were killed several hundred years ago, and we also have the fact that the vicar that was previously at the church in Chapelcroft committed suicide, and Jack starts to try to uncover what exactly happened to this particular vicar, and it seems as though this vicar had a special interest in the martyrs of several hundred years ago. So there's already a kind of hint of something bad having happened and maybe someone trying to cover it up. and it's just like there's so much going on. Now structurally, there's less of a swapping between timelines in such an active way as I've seen in her other books. So it's not like as if we go from one year to another year, if that makes sense, and instead Jack is just constantly finding out bits of information and you're kind of like uncovering the history without actually transporting back into the history. And then finally, as I mentioned, Jack has a daughter, and her daughter Flo does get some chapters dedicated to her, so we do have two different perspectives. But what's very interesting, and I'm intrigued to see how this affects like the end game of the narrative, is that Jack's chapters are told from first person, so everything is directly as she sees it and it's all about like her and how she thinks, whereas Fleur's chapters are told from a third person narrative style, so it's like more omniscient. And bless you Gatsby, I'm just intrigued to know like why CJ Tudor has chosen to alternate between first and third person for two different characters, and I'm just really intrigued is the word to use to describe how I'm feeling about this book. Really, really good, super dark. There's lots of talk about like satanic rituals and exorcisms and burning people at the stake and lots of darkness, and I'm very much intrigued. I am going to take a little break from reading to do some baking. I think it's the rain just always makes me fancy a little bit of cozy baking, and I was at first thinking about making a banana bread because, as you'll have seen right at the beginning of this vlog, I went to the cafe with Jay this morning and got an incredible Biscoff banana loaf, and I wanted to make one for myself. However, I don't have any bananas, so we've fallen at the first hurdle there, and there would be no point in even going to buy bananas because you need them to be super ripe for banana bread, so I wouldn't be able to make it today. So instead, I've decided to stick with the same vibe, but I'm going to go for like an apple loaf, or maybe not loaf, I don't know if we've even got a loaf tin at this house actually, but kind of like an apple, cinnamon, protein, cake type situation. I don't have that many ingredients in and I don't have a recipe that I'm following, so I'm just going to kind of wing it and see what I come up with. But I'm going to do some baking, watch yesterday's episode of Love Island because I need to catch up with that, and then get back to some reading later on this afternoon because the morning has just disappeared into books and brain. Well, I just finished up with my read of The Burning Girls and whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. I am blown away, flabbergasted, lost for words is what I am. This book was intense and I loved every single second. It was so dark, so creepy, so unnerving. I felt like it was stomach churning. It was kind of gory in parts, but then also partly stomach churning, not because of anything disgusting happening, but just because of how like intense and just like tense it was and how stressful the situations were that the characters were in. And it was wow is all I'm gonna say. Wow and wow again. Oh my god. I'm giving this one 5 stars because it kept me on my toes, was so mysterious, so dark, so creepy, so layered, so that I was constantly being surprised and constantly kept on my toes. There are so many different plot points and so many different mysteries being uncovered and explored within this novel, and so many different characters that you don't know whether you can trust, that you are literally just being boom, 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 surprised on every single page, and there's just so much destruction and drama and exorcisms and all kinds of dark things happening that it literally just keeps you, like, it was such a page turner and I loved it. The ending really surprised me. Obviously not going to say anything about it because I want to leave the surprise open for anyone else who wants to read this book, which by the way I highly recommend, but the ending absolutely just like floored me. I was not seeing that coming at all. I'm probably just like really thick when it comes to thrillers and I never see things coming, but it really did surprise me and I bloody loved it. So yeah, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Can I say wow again? Yes, I can. Wow, this was great and I'm so glad that I read it this weekend. So that was incredible. On a slightly less dramatic note, I was also pretty pleased with how my little apple cake, apple blondie thing, I don't really know what they were, but I'm pleased with how they turned out. I had one with a cup of tea while I was watching Love Island at lunchtime and it was rather delicious. Very happy because it was literally just a throwing things together from the kitchen. They're like really high protein because they've got protein powder in. I used the Free Soul vegan vanilla and also their vegan salted caramel protein, which added a really nice flavour in. And then also I used some Alpro protein yogurt, so they were really high protein. I also didn't use any like sugar or anything like that, so they were just sweetened with the protein powder and a little bit of maple syrup, and then the apples. So on the whole, quite healthy and very delicious. So cheers to that. Now moving on with further reading plans, because this weekend is all about trying to read as many books as I can and I've only read one so far. I've lined up 2 contenders for books that I'm going to try and read for the rest of this evening. I'm doubtful that I will finish them this evening, but I'm hoping to make a start in both of them. And I kind of picked 2 quite different ones. One I think is going to be quite a funny memoir, then the other one is keeping in with my dark thriller theme because I had such a good time with The Burning Girls. So we'll start with the funny book because let's be honest, I've just talked about such a dark and creepy book that we need a little bit of lightheartedness in this conversation. So I was actually sent an ARC of My Mess is a Bit of a Life by Georgia Pritchett, and this is a book with like the subtext Adventures in Anxiety. I think it's just like a light-hearted but quite frank and honest memoir about her experiences with anxiety and how they've impacted her life. But the reason I'm so excited about this one is because on the back it is there's like a few quotes from, you know, various people, as you generally tend to get on the back of books with reviews, but this one is from Miranda Hart. Miranda Hart is the star of the TV show Miranda. She's also in Call the Midwife and I just love Miranda so much. And it says, put simply, I love Georgia as a writer and a woman. Funny, moving, insightful, vulnerable, a brave book and a brilliant read. And I believe Georgia has written for Miranda before. I think that she's like, you know, like a comedy writer. Yeah, so it says she's a comedy and drama writer, writing for things like Have I Got News for You, Miranda and The Thick of It. So many incredible things. And I feel like it's gonna be like a really funny read. So like I said, this one I was very kindly sent by Faber Books as an ARC, and I'm very, very excited to read it because I think it's going to be a really fun time. Then the darker book, moving back into the lane of the dark and the creepy, I've also got myself a copy of The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell, and this one sounds incredibly dark. So it says on the back, be careful who you let in. In a large house in London's fashionable Chelsea, a baby is awake in her cot. Well fed and cared for, she's happily waiting for someone to pick her up. In the kitchen lie 3 decomposing corpses. Close to them is a hastily scrawled note. They've been dead for several days. Who has been looking after the baby? And where did they go? So this sounds very dark and very mysterious, which I'm all about. So I've got two very different styles of books on the cards for the rest of this evening, and I think I'm going to enjoy both of them. So without further ado, it's actually already 6 p.m. I really don't know where the day has gone. Well, I do. It's gone into the Burning Girls and also Love Island, because I have gotten obsessed. I've never watched Love Island before. I've just somehow like avoided the hype, but then I decided to watch this year's season, but of course the episodes only come out one a day, so I feel like I need a fix. So instead I've gone back to watch the one from 2019 season 5, which had like Molly May and Tommy and Maura and Amber and all of kinds of people who were like really popular from Love Island, and I'm obsessed. So I've been binge watching that, reading, drinking tea, eating apple cake and living my best life. So I'm going to continue doing that, and I'll catch up with you later when I do some more reading. So, did I end up reading any more yesterday evening? No. No, I didn't. But it's now Sunday morning, it's about 8:30. I've already been up for a couple of hours, and I have managed to read just over 150 pages of My Mess is a Bit of a Life. And this book is hilarious. I'm so glad that I decided to pick this one up next, because as I was hoping, it has been the perfect antidote to the darkness of the Burning Girls. I obviously loved the Burning Girls. It was chilling, unnerving, scary, and just everything that I could have possibly wanted from that kind of thriller. But this book has just been so on the nose, raw, upfront, and just totally hilarious, and has been everything that I could have possibly wanted from this kind of memoir. It's just so funny, and I'm having such a great time this weekend. I have been so on the ball with picking great books, and you know, I'm having a wonderful time. So this is a very anecdotal type of memoir. Each of the chapters has like a title, just kind of indicating what that little snippet of memory is going to be about. And then some of them are like literally a paragraph long, others are a few pages long, and it's a very like snapshots into Georgia's history and her life, starting from when she was like as young as in nursery, so about like 3 years old, all the way up into her adulthood, and talking about her career as a writer and how she kind of made that work. Specifically at the time that she started writing, it was kind of like she was one of the only women writing in comedy at the time, and it talks a lot about her experience of trying to make her way in the world of comedy writing and just writing in general and make a name for herself whilst kind of fighting against the patriarchy. And it's so interesting and manages to touch on some really serious topics, but in such a raw and funny way that I think, more than sort of a memoir that really is just like deep and emotional, I think the funniness of this one and the way that she talks about serious topics kind of opens herself up a little bit more, and kind of I think is relatable, because for a lot of us, comedy and just like making light of things is a really like common coping mechanism for dealing with sort of more difficult parts of our lives, and I feel like that kind of adds an element of even more just authenticity to this reading experience. Is so funny. On the very first page I knew that I was gonna like it, because the very first little like anecdote that she shares is called "We're All Doomed," and I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. It says, "My earliest memory is of sitting in my buggy in the snow. I was 3. My mum said to my brother, 'Don't fall over in the snow.' Then my brother fell over in the snow. This made me realise, 1. Bad things happen. 2. Bad things happen even if you tell the bad thing not to happen. 3. We're all doomed." And I just found it so funny. And she basically, the most anxious child ever, like everything is just awful to her, but she makes it really hilarious, and I think it's just so good. If any of you like me were readers when you were younger, which is such a broad statement, I should clarify, I'm obviously from England, and when I was younger I read 2 book series in particular, which were like YA book series by British authors, which I think are very similar to this in the the style of writing. The first one is Diary of a Chav by Grace Dent, and that is like a sort of insight into this young girl's life as she's about 16, going to sixth form college, and she's basically like from a like rough area in Essex, and she's just basically writing about her life, and the way that she describes friends, family, life experiences, and just like all of the disasters that happen in her life in such an upfront way that is like funny without even trying to be funny is so similar to this. And then the other one that I think it's quite similar to is the Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging book series by Louise Renison, which again just has like a really like funny, I'm saying funny so much, but they are funny. It has just like a really comedic way of describing friends, family, and all of the faux pas that happen throughout childhood and teenage years, in just like a way that kind of like exposes yourself. You're not trying to make yourself look cooler, and therefore it's really easy for readers to relate. So I'm enjoying this one a lot so far. I'm over halfway in now, and I'm definitely going to finish this one this morning. So then I will catch up with you later on and hopefully make a start on The Family Upstairs as well. This book was such a fun way to spend my Sunday morning. I absolutely loved it. Like I said, it was just so upfront, so raw, so just like honest, but in a really, really hilarious way. I feel like it was super obvious to me that this author was a writer of comedy shows, because her humour came across so incredibly well, and it was just like such a British self-deprecating kind of comedy that I absolutely loved, and I found myself laughing quite frequently at the pages of this book, which is something that I don't experience often in books. I know generally speaking lots of readers like to say that books are always better than TV shows or movies, but I don't always agree, and I think comedy is one of those instances where I don't agree, because I think, quite frankly, comedy comes across better in like spoken dialogue and in visual formats, and so I generally would say that I would find TV and film a lot funnier than books, but this is one of the few books that I've read that I've genuinely found really, really amusing. So absolutely love it. From the back of this book, like I said, it was an ARC, but the book was published on the 1st of July, so it's officially out now, and I'd highly recommend getting your hands on it if you want a good laugh. So next up on the agenda, we have The Family Upstairs, but I'm thinking that so that I don't stay a total tramp and just sit on the sofa in my pyjamas all day, I'm actually gonna get ready, put some real clothes on, maybe go out for a little walk, and then come back and do some reading. It's currently, I think, about like 10:30 in the morning, so there's still a whole day ahead of us with lots of time for reading this dark and I'm sure considerably less funny book. So I'm back from my walk, and I am now 102 pages into The Family Upstairs, but quite frankly, the word coming to mind about this book so far is underwhelming. It's quite boring and definitely a disappointment compared to what I was expecting. I was expecting creepy vibes right from the start, because the blurb of this like family being found with dead bodies in the house, but then there's a baby that looks like it's been taken care of even though everyone else around it is dead. That just sounded super creepy, super dark, and like there was going to be so much mystery to uncover, and I was just so excited to get into that. But actually it's been really, really dull, and I don't really care about any of the characters. I'm also surprised by how much I don't care, because this book has so many elements that I normally love in books. So we have multiple perspectives, the chapters keep switching from different people involved in these events, and we also have two different timelines. We have like before the events of the back of the book have happened, so before the like deaths have taken place, so we're leading up to the event, and then we also have like several decades in the future featuring the like survivors of this event and like basically like their lives as they've sort of taken place after this dramatic event has happened. So we've got different timelines, different perspectives, and those are things that normally hook me so easily and really make me love a book. But in this one, it's just so dull, and I feel like it's skirting around what is going to be the most interesting part of the novel, and I really just don't care. Like, it's just dull. Which is disappointing because I had high expectations for this book. So part of me, bless you, part of me doesn't even want to continue with this book, but I think I might like give it a little bit more of a try and then make my decision about whether or not I'm going to continue. But so far it is not pulling me in, and I'm disappointed. So I just got back from my Sunday afternoon gym session and made myself a coffee, which, now that I'm thinking about it, is actually in fact my third coffee of the day. So that is probably not my best move, but I've got it now and it tastes fabulous, so I'm just going to enjoy it and face the consequences later. But while I was at the gym, I was thinking about my Sunday evening, and I made the executive decision that I'm not going to be reading any more of The Family Upstairs right now. I'm not totally writing this book off, but I started it and I think just was not pulled in by the plot. As I mentioned, I got like, how many pages in did I get? Over 100, just over 100, and it just hadn't gripped me, and I felt like the more I tried to persevere with it, the less I was engaging with it, and the more I was resenting the fact that it was taking up the rest of my Sunday. And I also think that because I have just finished two such incredible 5-star reads, it was just not matching up to the experience that I'd had with them, and so I want to enjoy this book, and I think that maybe if I read it at another time I might enjoy it more. So I'm going to completely just pause this book now before I get too far into the plot, and then just return to this at another time. But honestly, My Mess is a Bit of a Life, absolutely hilarious, and then The Burning Girls, absolutely horrific, as in like disturbing, dark, twisted, creepy, spooky, and just everything that I wanted from this book. So I think that I've had a pretty great weekend of reading, to be quite honest. I maybe didn't read quite as many as I'd hoped to. I think I was kind of hoping for like at least 3 books, but alas, 2 5-star reads is a great way to finish the weekend. So with that in mind, I would love to know if you've read any of the books that I picked up this weekend and what you thought of them. If not, I think it's pretty clear that I would 100% recommend The Burning Girls and My Mess is a Bit of a Life. They were both absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.